I'm Laura, 25. Standing in my childhood dining room with a law degree in one hand and a baby bump I could no longer hide, I watched my father's face turn from surprise to rage. "You're a disgrace. Not welcome here. Not part of this family anymore." My mother chimed in with her own special brand of maternal warmth. "You chose failure, so sleep on the streets." And just like that, my homecoming dinner became my exile ceremony. The real kicker? They hadn't even asked who the father was. If they had, well, let's just say their reaction would have been very different. But I guess when you're more concerned with what the neighbors think than your pregnant daughter's well-being, details like that don't matter. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt rejected by family. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. Let me back up to explain how we got here. I met Michael Hastings my freshman year at Yale. Out of thousands of students, what were the odds that someone from my tiny Indiana hometown would end up in my pre-law program? But there he was, the son of my father's boss, looking just as homesick as I felt. We bonded over shared memories of the county fair and complaints about East Coast winters. For 3 years of undergrad and 3 years of law school, we kept our relationship secret, not because we were ashamed, but because I knew my father. He'd either accuse me of gold digging or worse, try to use my relationship to advance his career. Can you imagine? "Hey boss, my daughter's dating your son. How about that promotion?" The thought made my skin crawl. So when we visited home for holidays, we arrived separately. At Yale, we were the couple everyone knew. Back home, we were just two kids who happened to be from the same town. The secret wore on us. But we planned to reveal everything after graduation, when I could stand on my own accomplishments. Then 2 pink lines changed our timeline. I found out I was pregnant in January of my final semester. Morning sickness during criminal procedure, hiding my growing bump under oversized blazers during mock trials. Law school was hard enough without creating life at the same time. Michael was ecstatic. His parents, when we told them, were over the moon. His mother started knitting immediately, and his father opened a college fund before we'd even picked names. Finally, Robert Hastings had said, a grandchild to spoil. They wanted to throw us an engagement party, help plan the wedding, be involved grandparents. The contrast to what was about to happen with my family would have been funny if it wasn't so heartbreaking. By graduation in May, I was 5 months pregnant and running out of ways to hide it. The flowing graduation robes helped, but I knew the clock was ticking. Michael wanted to come with me to tell my parents, but I convinced him to wait. "Let me tell them first," I'd said. "Your dad can fly in tomorrow once they've processed the news." How naive I was, thinking there'd be a tomorrow in my parents' house. The 12-hour drive home was torture. I practiced my speech 100 times, even prepared a PowerPoint. Yes, really. Showcasing my law degree, my job offer at a top Chicago firm, Michael's proposal, our plans, evidence of success, stability, love. Because if law school taught me anything, it's that evidence matters. But I should have known. Some juries come in with their minds already made up. I pulled into the driveway at 6:30. Dinner time in the Morrison household. Nothing had changed. Same beige siding, same garden gnome Mom insisted was whimsical. Same sense of dread I always felt coming home. "Laura," Mom opened the door, her smile tight. "You've gained weight." And there it was. Maternal affection at its finest. "Nice to see you too, Mom." The dining room smelled like pot roast and disappointment. Dad sat at the head of the table, already halfway through his beer. He barely looked up when I entered. "Thought you'd be too fancy for family dinner now that you're a big-shot lawyer." I bit back my usual sarcastic response. "Stay calm, Laura. You're an adult. A pregnant adult with a law degree and a fiancé who actually loves you. Actually, I have some news." "Sit down," Mom interrupted, bustling in with plates. "Food's getting cold." So I sat. I watched them eat and complain about the neighbors, the weather, the government, everything except asking about my life. 20 minutes in, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "I need to tell you something." That's when Dad noticed. His eyes zeroed in on my midsection, on the bump that my dress could no longer hide. His face went through a fascinating array of colors. White, red, purple. I'd seen less dramatic transformations in chemistry class. "You're pregnant." Not a question. An accusation. "Yes, You're a disgrace." He slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes jump. "Not welcome here, not part of this family anymore." Mom's contribution was equally heartwarming. "You chose failure, so sleep on the streets." No questions, no concern, no who's the father or what are your plans or how far along are you? Just immediate exile. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. That's it? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. Your pregnant daughter comes home with a law degree from Yale and you throw her out? No questions asked? What's there to ask? Dad's voice dripped with disgust. Obviously, you've ruined your life. Pregnant and unwed, probably don't even know who the father is. What will people say? There it was. The real concern. Not my well-being, not their grandchild, but the gossip at church. I'm engaged, I managed to say. The wedding is in August. I have a job lined up. Lies to make yourself feel better, Mom cut in. No decent man would have you now. Get out before someone sees you here. I stared at them, these people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. 6 years of perfect grades, law review, job offers from top firms. None of it mattered because I was pregnant. Fine, I said, grabbing my suitcase. I'll go, but remember this moment. Remember that you chose your reputation over your daughter. Don't come crying back when he leaves you, Mom called after me. We won't be here. I paused at the door, looking back one last time. Actually, he's picking me up from the airport tomorrow, but thanks for the concern. The door slammed with a satisfying bang. I made it to my car before the rage hit. How dare they? How dare they assume the worst? But underneath the anger was hurt so deep I couldn't breathe. I sat in that driveway for 10 minutes trying to figure out my next move. Hotels in town were limited. A motel by the highway and a sketchy place downtown. I had savings from my summer internships, but not much. Most of it went to bar exam prep materials. I called Michael from the parking lot of a McDonald's. How'd it go? He asked, hope in his voice. About as well as the Titanic. I laughed bitterly. They kicked me out. What? The shock in his voice was genuine. Laura, I'm so sorry. Where are you now? McDonald's parking lot, trying to figure out if the motel by the highway still has hourly rates or if they've gone upscale to daily. Absolutely not. Dad's house has 12 bedrooms. You're staying there tonight. Michael, I can't just show up at your father's. You're carrying his grandchild. Your family. More family than those people who just threw you out. But what will he think? Me showing up like some homeless? He'll think your parents are idiots. Which they are. I'm calling him now. Michael, wait. But he'd already hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Robert Hastings himself. Laura, Michael told me what happened. I'm sending my driver to get you. Where are you? Mr. Hastings? I couldn't. Where are you? He repeated, his tone brooking no argument. 20 minutes later, a black town car pulled into the McDonald's parking lot. The driver, an older gentleman named James, took my suitcase without a word about the bizarre pickup location. The ride to the Hastings estate was surreal. I'd driven past those gates countless times growing up, never imagining I'd enter them pregnant and homeless. The house looked like something from a magazine. Fountains, marble columns, windows that reflected the setting sun like gold. My beat-up Honda would have looked ridiculous in that driveway. Thank God for James and the town car. Robert met me at the door himself, all 6'3" of him in a cashmere sweater, looking like the successful businessman he was. This was my father's boss, the man whose approval determined careers at Hastings Industries. And here I was, showing up like a stray cat. Laura, he said warmly, pulling me into a hug that surprised us both. Come in, sweetheart, you look exhausted. Sweetheart. My own father hadn't called me that since I was 5. The foyer was bigger than my childhood home, with a chandelier that probably cost more than my law school debt. But Robert guided me past it all to a comfortable sitting room, more intimate and warm. First things first, he said, settling me onto a sofa. Have you eaten? I'm fine. That wasn't really a question. Maria! A woman appeared as if by magic. Could you prepare something for Laura? And ready the blue suite? I'm so sorry to impose, I started, but Robert waved me off. You're not imposing. Your family. Michael's told us so much about you over the years. Well, after he finally admitted you two were together, I blinked. You knew? Robert smiled. Laura, I've known since your sophomore year. Did you really think my son could hide being in love for 6 years? He's many things, but subtle isn't one of them. But you never said anything. You both clearly had your reasons for privacy. I respected that, though I did wonder why you never came to family events. I was afraid, I admitted. My father, he would have either accused me of gold digging or tried to use the relationship for his own advancement. I couldn't do that to Michael, or to you. Robert's expression darkened. Your father, yes, I can see him doing that. Tell me exactly what happened tonight. So I did. The whole story poured out. The secret relationship, finding out about the pregnancy, planning to tell them together. Their immediate rejection. By the end, I was ugly, crying into tissues that probably cost more than my groceries. They didn't even ask about the father, I said between sobs. Just assumed I was some kind of... I don't even know what they thought. They thought about themselves, Robert said quietly. About their image, their reputation. Not about you or their grandchild. Maria returned with a tray of food that looked like a 5-course meal. While I ate, the baby was apparently starving, Robert made phone calls in the next room. I caught fragments. Guest room prepared, shopping tomorrow, whatever she needs. When he returned, he sat across from me with an expression I couldn't read. Michael tells me you have a job offer in Chicago. Kirkland and Ellis. I start in September, after the bar exam. Excellent firm. You'll do well there. He paused. I know Gerald Morrison has worked for my company for 17 years. I want you to know that this situation, your relationship with Michael, your presence here, will have no bearing on his employment. His job is safe as long as he performs adequately. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're worried about repercussions. I'm assuring you there won't be any. From my end, at least. The meaning was clear. My father might create his own problems, but they wouldn't come from Robert. Can I ask you something? I said quietly. Why are you being so kind to me? Robert looked surprised. You're carrying my grandchild. You're the woman my son loves. You're a brilliant young attorney who earned everything through your own merit. Why wouldn't I be kind? My own parents are fools, he said bluntly. They're lost, truly. Now, let's get you settled. Michael's flight gets in at 2 tomorrow. His mother is flying in as well. She's already bought out half of Chicago's baby stores, I'm afraid. I laughed despite everything. She doesn't even know if it's a boy or girl. Doesn't matter to Margaret. She's been waiting for grandchildren since Michael graduated high school. I woke in a bed that felt like clouds. In a room decorated in shades of blue that probably had fancy names. The blue suite was bigger than most apartments, with its own sitting area and bathroom that belonged in a spa. My phone showed missed calls from 3 unknown numbers and one from my sister Rebecca in Portland. I'd deal with those later. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Come in, I called, expecting Maria. Instead, Margaret Hastings entered, looking impeccable despite apparently taking a red-eye flight. Laura! She rushed over, pulling me into a careful hug, mindful of my bump. I'm so sorry we're meeting like this. I wanted to fly out for graduation, but Robert said you two were keeping things quiet. Mrs. Hastings. Margaret, please. Or Mom eventually, if you're comfortable. She sat on the bed, studying me with kind eyes. How are you feeling? Morning sickness still? Sometimes. It's better now. And emotionally? Michael told us what happened. I'm processing. It feels surreal. Yesterday I had parents. Today I don't. Margaret took my hand. You have us. I know it's not the same, but you have us. A knock interrupted. Michael this time looking tired from his flight but lighting up when he saw me. I'll give you two some privacy, Margaret said, kissing my forehead before leaving. But we're going shopping later. No arguments. Michael pulled me into his arms the second the door closed. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. It wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe made it worse. I wanted to take the first flight out when you called. Your interview was important. Not more important than you. He pulled back, studying my face. Dad said you were worried about his job, about using our relationship. I was. Michael, when he finds out, he'll do what he always does. Try to find an angle. Dad's ready for it. We spent the morning planning. The wedding we talked about would move up, a small ceremony before I started work. Unless you want to wait, Michael said carefully. Have the big wedding we planned? I want to be your wife, I said simply. The rest is just details. That afternoon, Margaret took me shopping. Not for baby things. We have time for that. But for clothes that actually fit my changing body. Comfortable shoes, prenatal vitamins. She chatted easily as we browsed, sharing stories about her own pregnancies, making me feel normal for the first time in days. I understand you kept the relationship secret because of your father's position, she said over lunch. That shows remarkable judgment for someone so young. Or paranoia, I said wryly. Protective instinct, she corrected. You were protecting Michael, protecting your father's job, protecting yourself. Very lawyerly, actually. My parents didn't see it that way. They didn't see anything but the scandal. Then they're blind. Their loss is our gain. That evening, the inevitable happened. The unknown numbers had been my parents, trying to reach me through various borrowed phones. Finally, they got smart. The text came from Rebecca. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Someone saw you at Hastings Estate. They want to know what's going on. I showed Michael and his parents. What do you want to do? Robert asked. Nothing, I decided. They made their position clear. I'm not family anymore, remember? But my phone rang again. Rebecca this time. I answered on speaker. Laura, what is happening? Mom's having a meltdown. She says you're at the Hastings mansion? I am. Why? How? She's convinced you went begging to Dad's boss or worse. Worse? I laughed bitterly. What could be worse in her mind than her pregnant daughter existing? Laura, please, just tell me what's going on. I looked at Michael, who nodded. The baby's father is Michael Hastings. We've been together 6 years. I'm staying with his family because mine threw me out. Silence. Then, Michael Hastings? The boss's son? Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God, Laura. Do Mom and Dad know? Nope. They didn't ask. Too busy calling me a disgrace and telling me to sleep on the streets. They're going to lose it when they find out. Rebecca was right. The meltdown, when it came, was spectacular. I'd blocked their numbers, but that didn't stop them from trying. They called Hastings Industries. They showed up at the gate. Security turned them away. They even tried going through their church, having the pastor call Robert to mediate this family dispute. Finally, Robert had enough. Let's settle this, he declared over breakfast. Invite them for dinner. Here. Tonight. Robert? No. You need closure, Laura. And frankly, I want to look Gerald Morrison in the eye when he explains throwing out his pregnant daughter. Michael squeezed my hand. Your choice. But Dad's right. This limbo isn't good for you or the baby. So I unblocked their numbers long enough to send a single text. Dinner at Hastings Estate. 7 p.m. Security will have your names. They arrived at 6:30 because even when desperate, my parents were punctual. I watched from the upstairs window as their sensible sedan looked hilariously out of place among the manicured gardens. Dad wore his best suit, the one from Rebecca's wedding. Mom clutched her purse like a shield. We made them wait 20 minutes. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. When we finally entered the dining room, I wore a dress that showed my bump prominently. If they wanted to be ashamed, they could look at what they'd rejected all through dinner. Mom, Dad. I nodded coolly, taking my seat between Michael and Margaret. My mother's eyes immediately went to my engagement ring, the 3-carat family heirloom that had been Michael's grandmother's. I watched her calculate its worth, then glance at my father. Laura? Dad started, then seemed to realize he had no script for this. You look, well, pregnant. The word you're looking for is pregnant. We came to apologize, Mom said quickly. Did you? When exactly did you decide to apologize? Before or after you found out who the baby's father is? Silence stretched like taffy. Robert stepped in smoothly. Perhaps we should start with dinner. These conversations go better on full stomachs. The first course arrived. My parents stared at the array of silverware like it might bite them. So, Dad finally attempted. Michael, I had no idea you and Laura were involved. 6 years, Michael said pleasantly. Though I understand Laura felt the need to keep it private. She was protecting your reputation at work. Didn't want anyone thinking you were getting special treatment because your daughter was dating the boss's son. Mom brightened. That's very thoughtful. Very considerate of her, I interrupted. Unlike parents who throw their pregnant daughter out without asking a single question. You have to understand, Dad said, leaning forward. We were shocked. The pregnancy, no warning. I tried to tell you, you didn't let me speak before exiling me. We thought you'd made a terrible mistake. The only mistake, Robert interjected coldly, was your reaction. Any parent worth the title would have asked questions. Who's the father? What are the plans? How can we help? Not throw their child out like garbage. Now see here, Dad started, his face reddening. I don't need parenting advice from someone housing your homeless daughter. Robert's voice could have frozen hell. You're right. You need more than advice. You need a conscience. The meal continued in agonizing silence until Mom tried again. We're family. We can work through this. Are we family? I set down my fork. Was I family when you told me to sleep on the streets? Was I family when you sent my belongings with a note saying don't bother coming back? We didn't know about Michael, and that matters? If he'd been a teacher or a mechanic instead of your boss's son, would throwing me out have been acceptable then? They couldn't answer. Of course they couldn't. Here's what's going to happen, I said, surprising myself with my calm. You're going to leave. You're going to tell everyone whatever story makes you feel better, but you will not contact me. You will not show up here. And you will not pretend to be loving grandparents when this baby is born. You can't mean that, Mom gasped. Our grandchild. The grandchild you rejected along with me? That grandchild? We made a mistake, Dad said desperately. But now we can be a family. I work for Robert, you're marrying Michael. We'll be connected. No. Robert's voice was final. Let me be clear, Gerald. Your employment is safe as long as you do your job. But if you attempt to use this family connection for any personal gain, if you harass Laura, if you show up uninvited again, that will change. Understood? My father went pale. 17 years of employment hung in the balance, and he knew it. Understood, he whispered. Furthermore, Margaret added, speaking for the first time, when people ask about your daughter, and they will, you'll tell them she's a successful attorney in Chicago. Nothing more. No details about her personal life, her marriage, or her child. You gave up the right to share in her joy when you chose cruelty over compassion. This is kidnapping, Mom said wildly. Parental alienation. We'll sue for grandparents' rights. Try it, I said, the lawyer in me finally emerging. Illinois law requires a pre-existing relationship with the child or proof that parents are unfit. You have neither. Additionally, I have witnesses to you throwing me out while pregnant. How do you think that plays in court? They stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This wasn't their compliant daughter who sought approval. This was someone new, someone who'd found her spine. I think we're done here, Michael said, standing. James will drive you home. Laura, please, Mom begged. Don't do this, we're sorry. I believe you are, I said sadly. Sorry you found out too late to benefit from the connection. Sorry you can't brag about your daughter marrying into wealth. Sorry you lost control of the narrative. But sorry for hurting me? Sorry for abandoning your pregnant daughter? No, you're not sorry for that at all. They left in silence, my mother crying, my father stone-faced. I stood at the window watching their taillights disappear, waiting to feel something. Regret? Sadness? Relief? You okay? Michael asked, wrapping his arms around me. You know what? I am. They showed me who they really are. Now I can stop hoping for parents they'll never be. Their loss, Robert said firmly. Now let's talk about happier things. When would you like to get married? The conversation shifted to wedding plans, bar exam prep, the Chicago apartment Michael and I would share. My phone buzzed. Rebecca again. Mom says you've brainwashed the Hastings family against them. What really happened? I showed the text to my new family. Margaret snorted. Brainwashed? We have eyes and ears. We can see cruelty when it's in front of us. I texted back. They threw me out for being pregnant. Hastings took me in. That's what really happened. You can believe whoever you want. Her response was immediate. I believe you. I'm sorry I wasn't there. It wasn't much, but it was something. Maybe not all my family was lost. Bar exam in 8 weeks, Robert said, bringing us back to practical matters. Think you can study while planning a wedding? Watch me, I said, hand on my bump. I'm pretty good at multitasking. Michael kissed my temple. That's my girl. Our girl, Margaret corrected. Our daughter. She said it naturally, like it had always been true. Like I'd always belonged here, with them. And maybe that's what family really was. Not the people you're born to, but the people who choose you, who see you at your lowest and say, come in instead of get out, who offer spare rooms and second chances and love without conditions. My parents had given me one gift without meaning to. They'd shown me exactly what kind of parent I'd never be. My child would never doubt they were wanted, never question their worth, never have to earn basic human kindness. They'd know love from their first breath to my last. That was my promise to the little one growing inside me. Now, Robert said, pulling out his tablet, let's talk about the wedding. Small ceremony? Large reception? What are you thinking? I looked around the table at my chosen family. Michael, steady and sure. Robert, protective and practical. Margaret, warm and welcoming. This was what I'd been looking for all along. Not my parents' conditional approval, but this, real, unconditional love. Small, I decided. Just the people who matter. The ones who show up. Perfect, Margaret said. That's all you really need. She was right. It was more than enough. It was everything.